Hey guys, what's going on? Watomarmelon back here again for a June 4th market watch. And today we're going to be talking about a number of cards. It's been a while since I've done one of these. As always, if you guys enjoy, make sure to like, subscribe, all that sort of stuff. And if you want to support the channel further, click the eBay affiliate link in the description below before you make any purchases on eBay. So we're going to start off with the new set, Wild Survivors, and the collector rares from this set. I mean, a lot of these are a lot of fun. A ton of dino cards. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. I guess there aren't as many as I thought, but the dino cards are really cool. Specifically, Ultimate Conductor Tyranno is one that I'm looking at. Obviously, it's a playable card. So I'm not fully sold on spending almost $100 on it, and the set just came out, so that's, this is one that if it ever plummets, I might consider. The biggest thing from the set for collectors is obviously Hungry Burger. I mean, this is just a meme card, but it's already commanding a $68 market price. I do expect that it's going to go down. Usually these sort of meme cards, they have their run, and then people sort of move on to the next funny thing or the next collectible thing. I cannot imagine that an unplayable card like Hungry Burger will maintain, a $60, $70 price point. I imagine this is going to fall out to something under $30. Could be completely wrong about that, but, this is a card that I will buy. I am positive I'll buy it at some point, but I will not buy it for $60 or $70. That much is certain. So I'm going to wait a while on this one, maybe 6 months. We'll revisit where Hungry Burger is at, unless it plummets much more quickly than that. Other than that, there isn't a ton of stuff really for collectors. Fossil League is a cool card with, I don't think, any other super high rarity printing, so this is an interesting one for sure. There can only be one. This is kind of a more modern card, but it's a nice high rarity printing. Fire Formation Tanky, that already has an ulti, and it's a playable card, so I don't think people are going to be chasing after that. And then the rest of these, they have some cool artworks. I mean, I love my dinosaurs. And these other Vanquish Soul cards actually have really cool artworks. I like them a lot, but I'm not really ready to spend almost $70 on a lot of these things just for some cool artworks. There are some cool artworks that are a lot cheaper than this, I'll tell you that much. And if you look back at another one of those cards that, for instance, Ruxin was really chasing after, you can see that these sorts of cards don't always maintain the price points that they once had, right? This started out the gate at 120, quickly fell down, and then it's been sort of falling out ever since that, just a little bit more slowly, sort of this exponential decline right here. You can see it's a $17 card right now. I think Hungry Burger is going to do a little bit better than Scapegoat, just because Scapegoat has an ultimate rare that's competing with it. And I think Tactical Masters was a pretty well-ordered set. Because, I can look at it right now. Excuse me. I think there was some pretty good stuff. Yeah, it has all the Labyrinth cards. It has Droll and Lockbird. There's a lot of really good stuff out of this set, but you look at some cards like Trap Trick is a $34 card, although I think this might have been banned. I could be wrong about that. Cosmic Cyclone, $35, $40 market price. I don't know where this stuff is going to end up. Astrograph Sorcerer is one that I actually tried to pick up for $25, and then it spiked in price. You can see that it's already coming back down. Had that spike up, and then, you can check the sales history. One was purchased at $60, $55, $40s. You can see it's already going back down. Maybe I'll pick up another. The seller ended up not sending the card. I don't know if that was because of the spike or not. Next up, we have 25th Anniversary Edition Legendary Collection. Quarter Century Secret Rares. No other Quarter Century Secret Rares have been released just yet, but we're on the horizon of Battles of Legend, which I believe has 25. So we'll see where those end up. There's, I believe, a SDK art Blue Eyes, or maybe it's an SDY art Dark Magician. Regardless, I can see these starting to really fall out. The God cards are doing quite well. I was expecting that you could pick up a set of these things for $10 to $15. I've been proven wrong. I don't know. We'll see where it ends up. I would like to pick up the God cards specifically at some point in time, but I think there's still a lot of room for these things to fall out, and you can see that the listings are still quite high on these things. Although the God cards, if you notice, are a lot. There are fewer listings of those things than the Blue Eyes, Dark Magician, and Red Eyes. So that's something to consider. It seems like people are a little bit more interested in the God cards, which isn't a huge surprise given that these are sort of the old red, blue, and yellow style God cards that people had from their childhood. Those always do quite well. Again, we look at something like Exodia, which has a 25th or a quarter century secret rare announced. I told you guys this thing isn't going to stay up high forever. Modern cards are a minefield. Once they are no longer the newest, shiniest thing, they can really fall out. Additionally, you look at this card, there's almost an identical printing of the card in Quarter Century Secret Rare. They are really just reprinting all the Starlight Rares in Quarter Century Secret, which is a problem if you pick these things up for the high price points, because this is only going to continue to come down. I don't see a reason where this thing should be more than $500. I was always surprised by how expensive this thing got, and now there's essentially an identical version of the card that's probably going to be a lot cheaper. We'll see where it ends up. I'm interested to see how they put in and what the rates are for the Quarter Century Secret Rares out of Battles of Legend. And there are 25 of them, so it might be hard to get. I don't know if they're going to do sort of a promo, they're going to do a one per box situation. Even if it's one per box, you think about it, that's still, you're only seeing one of these every 2 cases. And so that's a little easier to get than a collector rare. We'll see where it ends up. If it ends up being very, very difficult to pull, this thing might shoot back up. But the problem is, if it ends up being difficult to pull, you have another version that might be considered high rarity, because I think people like the Quarter Century Secret Rare a little bit better than Starlight, although, to each their own. So we'll see where this one ends up. I'm expecting this to further fall out. I think the best case scenario for something like this is that the Exodia ends up being, 1 per case or 2 per case, something like that. And so it's hard enough that it's not to pull, that it's not going to flood the market per se, but it's not considered the high rarity printing. This thing still is the modern high rarity printing. So, that would be the best case scenario for Exodia. We'll see where it ends up. Next up, we have Ghost from the Past 2. I always like looking at this thing. I mean, this is case in point. You can print something in a rarity that people like, and if you print enough of it, it just never holds that high price point. You can see that, certain ones, like, for example, Red Dragon Archfiend is starting to go up. I think people need that for their Signer Dragon collection. But things like Dark Arm Dragon, Cyber Dragon, those specifically are ones that I think have a lot of room to go down. I mean, just look at the number of listings of Cyber Dragon. There are almost double some of the other ones like Blue Eyes Ultimate, Blue Eyes. This, I believe, has an announced Quarter Century Secret Rare. Dark Arm Dragon, I believe, has an announced Quarter Century Secret Rare out of the Battles of Legends. So we'll see, or maybe it's the Megatins. I forget which ones are in the Megatins and which ones are in Battles of Legend. I think the Megatins ones are going to be a little easier to get, and if something's in the Megatins, where does this end up? If there's a Quarter Century Secret Rare in the Megatins, I don't know. This could be a $40 card. I think this $40 listing is like damaged or something like that, but the market price is around $50. So we'll see where these sorts of cards end up. I could see them further falling out. There are just too many of them. I think that's what we've learned from something like Ghost from the Past 2. There aren't enough people collecting Yu-Gi-Oh! To sustain high price points when they print this many of them. Next up, we have Winged Dragon of Ra. This is one that was printed sort of, I think this was 2020, September 2020, if I remember correctly, out of Rage of Ra. The rest of the set was not good at all, but you can see the first edition version is really slowly inching its way up over the past 3 months. If we move to 6 months, you can see that it's, it really started early 2023. People like this card. And maybe there's some buzz that these might get, Obelisk and Slifer might get Ghost Rares as well. I don't know if there's some buzz around that. But this one is doing quite well for itself. Near mint first edition, $175. Fell out considerably, but it's starting to ooch its way back up. We'll see where it ends up. I don't think this is one that's going to end up at, $400 or something like that. I don't know if it was ever that high. I couldn't see this being a $400 card, though. And specifically, the reason why is you have cards like this. Rainbow Dragon, Near Mint First Edition, $450. I mean, it's fallen out a bit, not too bad, but when the first Ghost Rare ever out of Tactical Evolution, which these boxes cost thousands and thousands of dollars, when this card is $450, that sort of puts sort of a ceiling on where something like the Winged Dragon of Ra could ever end up. And when a card like this is $450 and an Exodia that is getting almost an identical printing as $500, you look at these two cards and you think, maybe this one will go down because, I don't think this is going to spike up all of a sudden. So I'd expect Exodia and a lot of these modern cards, as they become less of the hot thing, people are no longer picking them up in droves. And so, that you have to look back at other comparable stuff and you say, why would I spend $500 on a shiny Exodia when I can get an original print first edition Rainbow Dragon? The first Ghost Rare ever released, a box that gets broken by exclusively people like Ruxin. I mean, there's not a whole lot left of these things relative to the Exodias. And I think people are going to start looking at Rainbow Dragon and saying, why would I spend more than that on something else that's more modern, but it's not the hot thing anymore? Looking at Blue Eyes White Dragon out of the original LOB, not the 25th anniversary edition box, legendary collection, whatever you want to call it, I was wondering where this thing would end up, because if you look at the yearly, we're going to remove first edition, you could see that it was really starting to pick up in place. It dropped a little too low, and this is a common theme. People were a little too hard on cards as the market cooled off, and so it slowly started climbing back up as people were realized that, actually I do like these cards. I'm willing to spend, a little under $100 on an original print Blue Eyes. And then the quarter century anniversary collection, whatever you want to call it, released. And this thing has really not done too well in recent months. You can see that since release, this thing has just plummeted. We'll see if this is, a knee-jerk reaction. I don't think this looks similar to the quarter century, or the one that was released in the 25th anniversary packs, but it still is hurting it. You can see that people are really buying out the worst condition copies. This is something, gladly I got my bad condition copies already, but, this is a way to ensure that you're getting sort of an original print version of the card, because most of the reprints are in pretty decent condition. And so when you buy the lightly played Unlimiteds, the moderately played Unlimiteds, you're going to get a version from 2002 to 2005. And so you can get a lot of really good stuff by just buying those things. And someone else clearly figured that out, because they picked up a ton of those things. Near mint, $60. I'd bet that these things are reprint versions of the card. Who knows? But you can see that it's pretty available at $60. I believe I looked at this one. This is an LOB E001. I actually think that's pretty difficult to get, if I remember correctly. BT's Card Shop. This looks like an original print. I mean, I don't know if this is actually... Yeah, definitely not near mint. That's a lot of whitening, my friend. But, this is something to look at, those listings where you can actually see the card and see if you get an original print in decent condition. Next up, we have some cards that, specifically Ultimate Rares, that have been doing quite well because they've been picked up for past formats. Ignore this sort of downturn. I don't know why it looks like that, but you can see that people have really been picking this thing up recently. Tons and tons of sales in May and, bleeding into June. You can see that the lowest listing is now $86, only 21 listings left. This is one that people are picking up. I believe it's for past formats. It's a cool looking card. I think if you can get a Euro print of this, it looks awesome. A lot better than the NA print, which is a little bit dull because the background just looks kind of dark. But this is one that, I love these book cards. It's one that I've thought of picking up, but I never ended up getting around to doing it. Maybe I'll pick it up in the future. We'll have to see. Caius, also, people are picking this thing up. There weren't a ton of these things left, but you can see that these couple of sales in May and June have taken it off the market again. This is one that got bought out a long time ago for Edison format, where there were essentially none of these things left on the market, and was so expensive. It went from like a $60, $70 card to a $250 card overnight, and then people bought it out again and went to $400. And now you can see that it's back at the 400 range. You can see that Gigabytes Cafe is trying to sell it for $370, but after that, you're looking at $500 for a near mint copy. I mean, this thing is off the market for sure. This is one that, if they do sort of a Monarch re-release, or they release some Monarch cards, this is one to consider, because this would be a cool collector rare. It would really help people who want a nice version of the card. Or if this was ever released in something like Speed Duel, might be a little too powerful, this would be a cool secret rare as well. So we'll see where something like that ends up. We've got Cyber Dragon. This thing got a little too low. You can see that it's starting to rebound quite heavily. Got down below $70. I said I would pick one up if it went below 80. I haven't, and I'm a fool for not picking one up below 80. Because it's going back up, and this is a cool card. The reason I haven't is because I picked up the Speed Duel version of the card for like $3, and that thing looks insane. It's a secret rare. Highly recommend it if you haven't seen it already. You should check it out, because it's a really cheap card, and it's a lot cheaper than this thing, that's for sure. Alright, so there's a near mint on limb at 72, and then it goes up. We'll see where it ends up. I don't know if this was the product of a buyout. It doesn't look like there have been any recent sales in June, but in May there were quite a few of these things sold. So something to note. You can see that it's actually starting to go back up. So we'll see where it ends up. Brain Control bought out, I believe, for past formats. Tons of sales in May and April for a card that doesn't see a lot of play. Actually, a playset of near mint first editions at $225. That's an intriguing one. Seller has not had any problems before. Is not a card shop. That's actually a big thing for me. A lot of the card shops just don't know what they're doing. So this is one where you can get a playset, and then after that, there's nothing left. None of these things left in near mint first edition. So that's something. We'll see where that goes. You might want to consider that if you don't have them already. Treeborn Frog, again, playable card. Near mint on limb, 140. First edition, 250. Cool card. I love it. I have one of these myself. Fun card, but you can see that there are only 6 listings of near mint copies left. And the other ones, there aren't many of those left either. Shadow of Infinity retail, a little bit difficult to pull this thing, and there's not a whole lot of those packs that are being ripped. There aren't many of those being ripped. Mobius the Frost Monarch, you guys know I love this card. Someone actually graded another PSA 10. Actually, they might have graded 2. I've seen one of the guys, I don't know if I mentioned this, but a guy offered me 5,000 plus like trades as well on top of that for my PSA 10 version of it. I declined. I'm happy. I'm super happy that I have the card, and I'm happy that he ended up. I don't think he grades the cards. He just buys them. He's someone in Europe who has a ton of money to throw around. I saw that he posted on his IG that he had this PSA 10 now in first edition, so I'm happy for him, because he's a crazy collector, and I'm super happy when people get the stuff. I wasn't willing to let go of mine. Not sure if I could get another one again. You can see that there's some PSA 9s at 240 and then 500, but near mint first edition, gone. Nothing left. Near mint on limb, $90. A couple of those there, $100. 5 listings left. I mean, people really love this stuff. From Soul of the Duelist, those ultimate rares. This is a card that there was probably a 4-year span where this card was pretty much a staple in the main deck or the side deck. So I think people who want to play past formats and bling out those decks, they need their Mobius. Blue Eyes White Dragon. I forget did I talk about this already? Yep. There we go. Finally, we're on to Speed Duel. They're releasing an Arcana Dark Magician that is going to look unbelievable. So I'm waiting for that. I'm going to buy the single for that thing. Cyber Dragon, this is what I was talking about. Market price of 327. Really not much at all. Let me just sort by secret rare. I bought a bunch of these things. I am so happy that I did because these things look awesome. I mean, you can get a collectible card for dirt cheap. Right there, you've got Shining Flare Wingman, super cheap. Looks incredible. Red Eyes Darkness Dragon looks incredible. A lot of these things, like Red Eyes Darkness Dragon in the TCG, in the OCG they have an ulti that looks out of this world. In the TCG, you didn't really have a whole lot to collect. You had the original Prince Ultra Rare from the starter deck, or the structure deck. Not that great to collect, but the secret rare looks unbelievable. Ill Blood, I bought one of those. Looks awesome. You have the Sacred Beast as well. They all look really nice. So this is, if you're a budget collector, secret rares from Speed Duel are the best possible thing. So it's already been 20 minutes. Thank you guys for watching. It's been your boy Watomarmelon, and peace out.